So today we will discuss about pharynx in details. Okay, you have seen viscera of the pharynx in head neck section. So we will discuss all the features. Okay. So pharynx is a wide funnel shaped musculomembranous tube, and pharynx means throat in Latin. It is situated behind the nose, mouth and larynx, and it extends vertically from the base of the skull to the esophagus, and it acts as a common passage for food and air. Okay. What is the measurements? Length is about 12 to 14 centimeter. Okay. Pharynx is mainly important. Some short notes are comes from here in your theory and mainly important for your viva table and OSPE. Okay. Different structures you have to identify and related questions will be asked, and also for MCQs. So measurements, length is about 12 to 14 centimeter, width is about 3.5 centimeter wide in the uppermost part of the pharynx, which is nasopharynx, and 1.5 centimeter narrowest at the pharyngoesophageal junction. This is asked in your viva. Okay, what is the widest part? Widest part is the nasopharynx and narrowest part is the pharyngoesophageal junction. What is the location? Pharynx is situated behind the nose, mouth and larynx, and the pharynx extends from base of the skull to the lower border of the cricoid cartilage that lies at lower border of C6 vertebra, and where it continues as the esophagus downward. Next, this is boundaries and external relations of the pharynx. Superiorly, it is bounded by the base of the skull and posterior part of body of sphenoid and basilar part of the occipital bone. Inferiorly lies the esophagus, posteriorly bound by the prevertebral fossa and C1 to C6 cervical vertebra. Anteriorly, it communicates with the nose, mouth and larynx. Laterally, there is auditory tube, styloid apparatus, carotid arteries, common internal external carotid, and last four cranial nerves. And this is the subdivision of the pharynx. Subdivision is very important. Cavity of pharynx is divided into these three parts. Nasopharynx lies behind the nasal cavity. Oropharynx lies behind the oral cavity, and laryngopharynx lies behind the larynx. So these are the three divisions from above downward. Okay. Nasopharynx, oropharynx and laryngopharynx. See here, this is nasal cavity. It is continuous posteriorly with the nasopharynx. There is the oral cavity continuous posteriorly with the oropharynx, and this is larynx posterior to the laryngeal inlet. Here is the laryngopharynx. Below the laryngopharynx, it continues downward as the esophagus. Okay, and larynx is continuing downward as the trachea. And here the crossing of the air and food is occurring. See, air is coming from nasal cavity, nasopharynx, oropharynx, enters into the via the laryngeal inlet into trachea, and food is coming from the oral cavity, oropharyngeal isthmus, oropharynx, laryngopharynx, enter into the esophagus. Okay. So here is schematic diagram: nasal cavity, nasopharynx, oral cavity, oropharynx, laryngeal cavity, and here is the laryngopharynx. Okay, and laryngopharynx continues downward as the esophagus. This is the level. This is not laryngopharynx. This part is laryngopharynx. Okay. So this is summarization. So it is a mucomembranous tube. These are the measurements. Length is 12 to 14 cm. Width is 3.5 cm in nasopharynx, widest part, 1.5 cm at pharyngoesophageal junction, narrowest part. Subdivisions are these three. Nasopharynx lies behind nasal cavity, oropharynx behind oral cavity, laryngopharynx behind the larynx. Nasopharynx or epipharynx is situated behind the nasal cavity and above the soft palate. And these are the boundaries. Boundaries are in your viva. So roof is formed by body of sphenoid and basilar part of the occipital bone. Floor is formed by the soft palate and pharyngeal isthmus, which is the communication with the oropharynx. Next is anterior wall. In the anterior wall lies the posterior nasal aperture, which is communication with nasal cavity, choana. And posterior wall is formed by anterior arch of atlas, C1 vertebra. Lateral wall is formed by medial pterygoid plate of sphenoid, and roof and this posterior wall of the pharynx form a continuous slope. See, this is roof and posterior wall of the nasopharynx forming a continuous slope. Okay. So these are the features of the nasopharynx. What are the features? Nasopharyngeal or pharyngeal tonsil or adenoid. It is median conical mass formed by aggregation of lymphoid tissue beneath the mucous membrane, and it is prominent in children and atrophies in the adult. It projects forward from the junction of roof and the posterior wall of the pharynx. So this is the location of adenoid or nasopharyngeal tonsil is important. Next is nasopharyngeal bursa or pouch of Laska. It's a mucous diverticulum that extends upward into the substance of the nasopharyngeal tonsil from its apex. Okay. Next is pharyngeal opening of auditory tube. It lies in the lateral wall of the nasopharynx, 1.25 cm behind the inferior nasal concha, and it is a triangular opening in the lateral wall of the nasopharynx. Okay. Next feature is the tubal tonsils. The upper and posterior margin of the pharyngeal opening of auditory tube are elevated by aggregation of the lymphoid follicles forming the tubal tonsil. You have seen. Next, two mucous folds are there. They extend from the tubal tonsil. These are salpingopharyngeal fold and salpingopalatine fold. Salpingopharyngeal fold passes vertically downward on the lateral wall of the pharynx, contains salpingopharyngeus muscle, and salpingopalatine fold extends downward and forward to the soft palate and contains the levator valley palatine muscle. Next is pharyngeal recess or fossa of Rosenmuller. It is a deep depression behind the tubal elevation. See, we have cut open the pharynx from the posterior aspect. You have seen this structure in tongue, larynx, pharynx, viscera. So this is posterior nasal opening, nasal septum. So this part will be the nasopharynx. See, oral cavity, posterior to it lies the oropharynx. From the soft palate up to the upper margin of epiglottis. This part is the oropharynx. And from this upper margin of epiglottis up to the lower border of the cricoid cartilage, this part will be the laryngopharynx. So nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx, and this is laryngeal inlet. Bounded by epiglottis on the two sides, aryepiglottic fold, and here posteriorly interarytenoid fold of mucous membrane. Schematic diagram you can practice for your exam. So this is nasopharynx. These are the opening of the auditory tube. These are the nasal concas are visible, middle and inferior concha, nasal septum. Here is the soft palate. This is oropharynx connected with the oral cavity. Posterior 1/3 of tongue, palatine tonsils, uvula are visible. And this is laryngopharynx. Here you can see the laryngeal opening, laryngeal inlet, bounded by epiglottis, aryepiglottic folds, interarytenoid fold of mucous membrane. And on the two sides of this laryngeal inlet, you will get the pyriform fossa here. Okay. So these are the features of laryngopharynx. See here, this tubal opening have been shown here. Tubal opening, opening of the auditory tube, and the posterior superior part of this opening is elevated due to collection of lymphoid tissue that is forming dual tonsil. From this opening, two folds are extending. One is going towards the palate. This is known as salpingopalatal fold. Two is going to the pharynx. This is salpingopharyngeal fold. And posterior to this fold, here is fossa of Rosenmuller. Okay. So nasopharynx, these features you will getting nasopharyngeal tonsil or adenoid, nasopharyngeal bursa, which is extending mucous pouch, extending within the adenoid, and pharyngeal opening of the auditory tube, dual tonsil, mucous folds, salpingeal and salpingopalatine folds, and pharyngeal recess. These are the features of nasopharynx. In the oropharynx, you will get palatine tonsil, tonsillar fossa, palatoglossal arch, palatopharyngeal arch, lingual tonsils, and two glossoepiglottic fold, one median and two lateral glossoepiglottic fold, and in between these folds you will get the vallecula. Okay, you have seen all these structures. Next is laryngopharynx. Here you will get laryngeal inlet, pyriform fossa, and aryepiglottic folds. So the nasopharynx, similar to the nasal cavity, is lined by pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. This lining epithelium important for your viva and MCQs. Okay. So nasopharynx is similar to nasal cavity, pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium, and nasopharynx is the widest and non-collapsible part of the pharynx. Okay. This is clinical aspect of nasopharynx. Clinically, the enlarged pharyngeal tonsils is called adenoid, and it may obstruct the airway passage at the nasopharynx, and that results in oral breathing. Okay, here is the hypertrophied nasopharyngeal tonsil forming adenoid. Okay, it may cause spread of infection to the middle ear through the auditory tube. Adenoidectomy is done. This is surgical removal of the adenoid. Okay, to prevent this oral breathing and prevent the blockage. Next, so we have completed nasopharynx. Next, we are going to the oropharynx. Oropharynx lies behind the oral cavity and it extends from the pharyngeal isthmus above the upper border of epiglottis below. Boundaries are roof is formed by soft palate, pharyngeal isthmus through which oropharynx communicates with the nasopharynx. Floor is formed by posterior 1/3 of the tongue and interval between the tongue and epiglottis. Anteriorly lies the oropharyngeal isthmus through which oropharynx communicates with oral cavity and posterior 1/3 of the tongue. Anteriorly lies the bodies of C2 and C3 vertebra, and on the lateral wall lies the pterygomandibular raphe, mandible, tongue, and the hyoid bone. So these are the boundaries of the oropharynx. These are the features. Palatine tonsils. There is one palatine tonsil on each side in the lateral wall of the oropharynx, and it is located into a tonsillar fossa. Tonsillar fossa is a triangular depression in the lateral wall of the oropharynx, and it lodges the palatine tonsil. Tonsillar fossa sometimes come in your short note. Okay. So boundaries of tonsillar fossa are anteriorly bounded by palatoglossal arch, posteriorly bounded by palatopharyngeal arch, inferiorly by posterior 1/3 of the tongue. An apex is meeting point of anterior and posterior margin at the soft palate. Apex lies above where the two folds are meeting. Next, two arches, palatoglossal arch. It is a mucous fold that runs downward and forward from the palate to the lateral margin of the tongue, and it contains the palatoglossus muscle. Palatopharyngeal arch is a mucosal fold that runs downward and backward to the pharyngeal wall, and it contains the palatopharyngeus muscle. Next is lingual tonsils. These are mucosal aggregation of lymphoid follicles on the dorsum of posterior 1/3 of the tongue that forms the lingual tonsils. Next is median and lateral glossoepiglottic folds. They connect the anterior surface and edges of the epiglottis respectively to the tongue. And in between this epiglottic vallecula, these are shallow fossa between the median and lateral glossoepiglottic folds. Okay, all these features you have seen in the viscera. Anterior to this epiglottis will be those folds. These are lateral glossoepiglottic fold you can see, and here will be the median glossoepiglottic fold. So in between the two lies the vallecula. Okay, and this projecting part, these are the palatine tonsils, and this is palatopharyngeal arch, and this is soft palate and uvula. Next, we are going to oropharyngeal isthmus. These boundaries are important asked in your viva. So, here is the oropharyngeal isthmus. See, this is tonsillar fossa, lies between the palatoglossal arch anteriorly and palatopharyngeal arch. Okay, and this is posterior 1/3 of the tongue and soft palate. These are forming boundary of oropharyngeal isthmus. So, it is a arched opening between two palatoglossal folds through which the oral cavity communicates with the oropharynx, and boundaries are superiorly soft palate, inferiorly dorsal surface of the posterior 1/3 of the tongue. So this view is, we are viewing from anteriorly. So anterior fold will be palatoglossal arch, posterior fold is palatopharyngeal arch. So boundaries are superiorly by soft palate, inferiorly by dorsal surface of posterior 1/3 of the tongue, laterally palatoglossal arch, one on each side. And functions are the oropharyngeal isthmus closes during deglutition to prevent the regurgitation of food from oropharynx to the mouth. Okay, this is the function of oropharyngeal isthmus. So we have completed oropharynx. Next we are going to laryngopharynx. Laryngopharynx lies behind the laryngeal inlet, and it extends from, extend is asked in your viva. It extends from upper border of epiglottis to the lower border of the cricoid cartilage. Okay, this is the extent of laryngopharynx. And these are the boundaries: superiorly by the oropharynx, inferiorly by the esophagus, anteriorly by laryngeal inlet and posterior surface of the larynx, posteriorly by bodies of C3 to C5 vertebra, and laterally thyroid cartilage and thyrohyoid membrane. Okay. And features, what are the features? The laryngopharynx presents these following features: laryngeal inlet, which is bounded inferiorly. The laryngopharynx communicates with the laryngeal cavity through the laryngeal inlet, and it is bounded superiorly by upper border of epiglottis, below and behind by mucous folds, on each side by aryepiglottic folds. And another feature is pyriform fossa of this laryngopharynx. So next we will discuss the pyriform fossa. This is important short note, pyriform fossa. On the two sides of this laryngeal inlet, here lies the pyriform fossa. Okay. So it is also called pyriform sinus or smuggler's fossa, and it is a depression in the lateral wall of the laryngopharynx on each side of the inlet. Boundaries are medially bounded by aryepiglottic fold. So this is medial boundary formed by the aryepiglottic fold, and laterally by the mucous membrane covering the medial surface of lamina of thyroid cartilage and thyroid membrane. Here, this is forming the lateral boundary, mucous membrane covering medial surface of lamina of thyroid cartilage and the thyroid membrane. Above by the lateral glossoepiglottic folds. Here, this lateral glossoepiglottic fold is forming boundary above. Okay, and separate the pyriform fossa from the vallecula. Next, relations: the internal laryngeal nerve and superior laryngeal vessels pierce the thyroid membrane and transverse underneath the mucous membrane of floor of the pyriform fossa. Okay, see, this is superior laryngeal vessels, and along with it the yellow colored line is representing the nerve. Internal laryngeal nerve lies just beneath the pyriform fossa, And this pyriform fossa is deep in ruminating mammals and it acts as a lateral food channel to convey the bolus of food during deglutition by the side of the closed laryngeal inlet. These are the importance of the pyriform fossa. This is very important for your viva. It is called smuggler's fossa. Sometimes the pyriform fossa is artificially deepened by smugglers and used to hide the diamonds. Perforation. Pyriform fossa may get perforated during endoscopy. Okay. And damage to the internal laryngeal nerve. Internal laryngeal nerve lies deep to the mucous membrane of the pyriform fossa. So accidentally ingested foreign bodies may get lost in this pyriform fossa and during their removal internal laryngeal nerve may get damaged. Okay. Internal laryngeal nerve was supplying the larynx. Okay. So there will be hoarseness of voice. Next, we are going to structure of the pharynx. So, wall of the pharynx consists of this following layers from within outward. First, from inside outward, you will see first the mucous membrane. Then, outside it, some mucosa. Then, pharyngobasilar fossa. The green one is the pharyngobasilar fossa. Then, you will get the constrictor muscle, muscular layer. Constrictor muscle, superior, middle, inferior constrictor, and then outside is the buccopharyngeal fossa. So these are the 5 layers you will get in the wall of the pharynx. Mucosa, submucosa, pharyngobasilar fossa or pharyngeal aponeurosis, muscle coat, and buccopharyngeal fossa. Muscle coat lies in 2 layers, longitudinal and circular. Okay. So these are forming the constrictor muscles are forming the circular layer. And see, in this is transverse section and this is longitudinal section, and these constrictor muscles are overlapping each other. You can see. So the lower part of superior constrictor is overlapped by the middle constrictor, and lower part of middle constrictor is overlapped by the inferior constrictor. Okay, here also you can say all the layer, mucous membrane, okay, then pharyngobasilar fossa, then muscles, then you can see the buccopharyngeal fossa here. Okay, and in between the muscles and the buccopharyngeal fossa, here you are getting the venous plexus. So mucous membrane of pharynx, it contains considerable amount of elastic fibers. Pharynx is lined by non-keratinized stratified epithelium except narrow nasopharynx, which is lined by pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar like the nasal epithelium. Tonsils are the subepithelial collections of lymphoid follicles produce Waldeyer's ring, and that is pharyngeal tonsil, tubal tonsil, palatine tonsil, lingual tonsil. Waldeyer's ring you prepare for short note. Okay. Next is submucosa. In the upper part of pharynx, it condenses to form the pharyngobasilar fossa. And pharyngobasilar fossa or pharyngeal aponeurosis, it is a fibrous thickening of the pharyngeal submucosa which lines the pharyngeal muscles internally, and it is thicker near the base of the skull where it fills the gap between the skull and upper border of superior constrictor muscle. And this gap between the skull and upper border of superior constrictor, this gap is known as sinus of Morgagni. And posteriorly, this pharyngobasilar fossa forms the pharyngeal raphe. Okay, where all the constrictor muscles are inserting over this pharyngeal raphe. Muscle coat contains 2 layers of striated muscles, outer layer of 3 pairs of constrictor muscle and inner layer of 3 pairs of longitudinal muscles. And buccopharyngeal fossa, layer of loose areolar tissue, covers the outer surface of pharynx, anteriorly merges with buccopharyngeal fossa, and in the upper part of pharynx, it merges with the pharyngobasilar fossa and closes the sinus of Morgagni. Okay. And the pharynx consists, next we are going to the detailed discussion of the muscles. Okay, longitudinal and circular muscles. So pharynx consists of striated muscles, that means voluntary muscles, and which are arranged in these 2 layers. Outer circular layer, it consists of 3 pairs of constrictor muscle which are superior, middle, inferior constrictor. An inner longitudinal layer consists of three pairs of muscle: stylopharyngeus, palatopharyngeus, salpingopharyngeus. These are the features of the constrictor muscles. The constrictor muscles of pharynx form the lateral and posterior wall of the pharynx, and it originates anteriorly, pass posterior-medially to get inserted on the median fibrous pharyngeal raphe. And arrangements are asked in your viva. The constrictors are arranged in a specific manner so that lower fibers of superior constrictor are overlapped by the upper fibers of middle constrictor, and lower fiber of middle constrictor are overlapped by upper fibers of inferior constrictor. And these are four gaps related to the constrictor, and through this gap important structures are passing. That's why the gaps are important. Above the superior constrictor, between superior and middle constrictor, in between middle and inferior constrictor, and below the inferior constrictor. And embryologically, the constrictors of pharynx develop from 4th to 6th pharyngeal arches, hence supplied by the cranial part of accessory nerve through the vagus nerve. Okay, this is nerve supply of constrictor muscle is important. What is action? All the constrictor muscles help in deglutition, and all the constrictor of pharynx are supplied by fiber from cranial part of accessory through the pharyngeal branch of the vagus, and this supply is due to this developments. And the thyropharyngeus and this inferior constrictor has two parts: thyropharyngeus and cricopharyngeus. Thyropharyngeus is supplied by pharyngeal plexus, an external laryngeal branch of vagus nerve, and cricopharyngeus is supplied by recurrent laryngeal branch of the vagus nerve. Okay. See here, see superior constrictor, middle constrictor, inferior constrictor. Inferior constrictor have two parts: thyropharyngeus above, cricopharyngeus below, and here is the esophagus. Okay, and in these gaps between base of skull and superior constrictor, this is sinus of Morgagni. Through it, important structures are passing: auditory tube and others. And this is anteriorly, these constrictor muscles are arising anteriorly, and they are inserting posteriorly in the pharyngeal raphe. Okay, and see the overlapping manner. Superior, lower part of superior constrictor overlapped by the middle, and lower part of middle is overlapped by the inferior. Schematic diagram. Okay, so this is sinus of Morgagni, superior constrictor, middle constrictor, inferior constrictor, and it has two parts: thyropharyngeus and cricopharyngeus. Oblique part is known as thyropharyngeus, and circular transverse part is known as the cricopharyngeus. So superior constrictor origin from pterygoid hamulus, pterygomandibular raphe, mandible at posterior end of mylohyoid line, side of tongue. Insertion into pharyngeal tubercle and median raphe. Okay, pharyngeal raphe. And middle all the muscles have insertion over the median raphe. Middle constrictor, lower part of stylohyoid ligament, lesser cornu, upper border of greater cornu of hyoid. And inferior constrictor, thyropharyngeus and cricopharyngeus. Thyropharyngeus origin from oblique line on the lamina of thyroid cartilage, and cricopharyngeus from the cricoid cartilage. And on nerve supply, cranial root of accessory nerve. So this is summarization of constrictor. So we have discussed summarization of the constrictor muscles of the pharynx, origin, insertion, and nerve supply you remember. Okay. Next, these gaps and the structure passing through the gaps are important. These are gaps in the constrictor muscles of pharyngeal wall. Gap between the base of the skull and upper border of superior constrictor is called sinus of Morgagni here, and through it passes the auditory tube, levator valley palatini, ascending palatine artery, palatine branch of ascending pharyngeal artery. The structures passing through the gaps you remember, important for your OSPE question. Okay, OSPE or viva. So here through the sinus of Morgagni you can see these structures: auditory tube, ascending palatine artery, palatine branch of ascending pharyngeal. All these are passing through the sinus of Morgagni. Between superior and middle constrictor passes the stylopharyngeus muscle and glossopharyngeal nerve here. This is the stylopharyngeus muscle and glossopharyngeal nerve passes between superior and middle constrictor. And between the middle and inferior constrictor passes this internal laryngeal nerve and superior laryngeal vessels here. Okay, and between the lower border of inferior constrictor and esophagus passes the inferior constrictor and esophagus. Here passes the recurrent laryngeal nerve and inferior laryngeal vessels. Okay, recurrent laryngeal nerve, inferior laryngeal vessels. These structures you remember important for your Viva MCQs. Next is Killian's dehiscence or Jenker's diverticulum. Okay, this is important for your short note. Comes in your theory. Jenker's diverticulum or hypopharyngeal diverticulum or pharyngeal pouch is a diverticulum of the pharyngeal mucosa just above the cricopharyngeus. Okay, here. This is Jenker's diverticulum, mucous pouch in between the two parts of the inferior constrictor. This is thyropharyngeus part, oblique fibers, and this is cricopharyngeus part, transverse fibers. Okay, so Killian's dehiscence is a weak posterior part of the pharyngeal wall that lies between the cricopharyngeus and thyropharyngeus part of the inferior constrictor of the pharynx. And in case of excessive pressure within the lower part of pharynx, the mucosa of the pharyngeal wall balloons out through this Killian's dehiscence to form the Jenker's diverticulum. Okay, and it may result due to neuromuscular incoordination or spasm of the cricopharyngeus muscle, and it occurs because the two parts of inferior constrictor have different nerve supply. Okay, the propulsive thyropharyngeus is supplied by pharyngeal plexus and the sphincteric cricopharyngeus is supplied by recurrent laryngeal nerve, a bunch of vagus. And in neuromuscular incoordination, if the cricopharyngeus fails to relax when the thyropharyngeal contracts, the bolus of food is pushed backward and tends to produce a diverticulum. Okay, if neuromuscular incoordination, the upper part contracts and this lower part relax normally. If it does not occur, then pressure will increase and mucous pouch will be formed in between these two muscles and form the Jenker's diverticulum. What will be the sign and symptoms of Jenker's diverticulum? It may be asymptomatic if it is smaller in size. There may be dysphagia, difficulty in swallowing, regurgitation of food, cough, and diagnosis is done via endoscopy or barium swallow radiography. Okay, here for short note, it is a pharyngeal pouch diverticulum of the pharyngeal mucosa and occurs through Killian's dehiscence, which is weak part of posterior pharyngeal wall lying between cricopharyngeus and thyropharyngeus, and it is formed due to excessive pressure in the pharynx, ballooning of pharyngeal mucosa through Killian's dehiscence and formation of Jenker's diverticulum. Cause is neuromuscular incoordination. Signs and symptoms are maybe asymptomatic, dysphagia, regurgitation of food or cough. Diagnosis is done by barium swallow X-ray and endoscopy. Next we are going to longitudinal muscles. These are asked in your Viva, longitudinal muscles. Wall of the pharynx has three pairs of longitudinal muscles: stylopharyngeus, palatopharyngeus, salpingopharyngeus. See here, this is stylopharyngeus coming from styloid process. This is salpingopharyngeus coming from the opening of auditory tube. And this is palatopharyngeus lying in the palatopharyngeal arch. All these muscles are inserted on the posterior border of the lamina of the thyroid cartilage. And these muscles elevate the larynx and shorten the pharynx during swallowing. This is function of the longitudinal muscles. Next. So, these are the origin and insertion. Stylopharyngeus from styloid process, palatopharyngeus from upper surface of palatine aponeurosis, salpingopharyngeus from lower part of cartilage of auditory tube. And all these are inserted into posterior border of lamina of thyroid cartilage, and all function of them is elevation and shorten the pharynx. Nerve supply, stylopharyngeus by glossopharyngeal nerve, palatopharyngeus and salpingopharyngeus by cranial part of the accessory nerve, 11th cranial nerve. Okay. So this is summarization. This chart you remember: origin, insertion, nerve supply. Stylopharyngeus, glossopharyngeal nerve, and these two by cranial root of accessory. So the pharynx is supplied by pharyngeal plexus, which is formed by pharyngeal branch of vagus carrying fibers of cranial accessory nerve, pharyngeal branch of glossopharyngeal nerve, and pharyngeal branch of superior cervical sympathetic ganglion. And motor supply of all the muscles of pharynx are supplied by cranial root of accessory nerve through the vagus nerve, except stylopharyngeus, which is supplied by glossopharyngeal nerve. So this line you important, this motor supply is asked. All muscles are supplied by cranial part of the accessory nerve except stylopharyngeus supplied by glossopharyngeal nerve. Important for Viva MCQ. And note, the inferior constrictor receives additional supply from recurrent laryngeal nerve, and these are the sensory supply of pharynx. We are discussing whole of the pharynx for their nerve supply, blood supply, lymphatic drainage. So sensory supply by glossopharyngeal nerve, vagus, pterygopalatine ganglion, lesser palatine nerve. And taste sensation from vallecula and epiglottis carried by internal laryngeal branch of the vagus. This is also sometimes asked. Secretomotor supply, parasympathetic fiber from lesser palatine branch of pterygopalatine ganglion are secretomotor for the mucous glands of the pharynx. Okay, so this is nerve supply. Previous next we are going to blood supply. It is supplied by these following arteries: ascending pharyngeal branch of external carotid, ascending palatine and tonsillar branch of facial artery, dorsal lingual branch of lingual artery, and greater palatine and pharyngeal branch of maxillary artery. Venous drainage is via pharyngeal venous plexus. It drains the venous blood from the pharynx, and it is situated on the posterolateral aspect of the pharynx over the middle constrictor. And pharyngeal plexus drains into the internal jugular and facial veins. Lymphatic drainage, the lymphatics from the pharynx drain into the retropharyngeal and deep cervical nodes. Okay, so this is blood supply and lymphatic drainage. Next, nerve supply of pharynx is important. Nerve supply you must read. Okay. Next is deglutition. Deglutition sometimes comes in your short note. Not very frequently, but comes in your theory. So deglutition is a coordinated process by which food is transferred from mouth to the stomach. It has three phases. First phase in the mouth, this is voluntary. Second phase in the pharynx, which is involuntary. And third phase in the esophagus, which is also involuntary. So what occurs in first phase? It is voluntary phase. It involves transfer of food bolus from oral cavity to the oropharynx. And this is the mechanism. In this stage, mouth is closed, anterior part of tongue is raised and pressed against the hard palate by intrinsic muscles of the tongue, and this movement pushes the food bolus into the posterior part of oral cavity. Soft palate closes down onto the back of the tongue. Approximation of the palatoglossal arches and upward movement of the hyoid bone, and food bolus pushes through the oropharyngeal isthmus into the oropharynx. Okay, so all this process is diminishing the cavity of the oral cavity and pushes the food bolus towards the pharynx. First stage. Next, second stage. It is involuntary, involves transfer of food bolus from oropharynx to the esophagus. What is the mechanism? Contraction of levator valli palatini and tensor valli palatini, elevation of soft palate. Closure of the nasopharyngeal isthmus prevents entry of food into the nose. Approximation of aryepiglottic folds. Closure of the laryngeal inlet prevent entry of food into the larynx, and contraction of longitudinal muscles of the pharynx. Elevation of the larynx and pharynx, and food bolus is pushed downward over the epiglottis. And contraction of the superior and middle constrictor and palatopharyngeus, and food bolus is pushed further downward into the esophagus. So from the pharynx going towards the esophagus. Second phase. Next, So third phase stage, it is involuntary stage that involves transfer of food bolus from esophagus to the stomach. Mechanism is contraction of thyropharyngeus and relaxation of cricopharyngeus. Function of two parts of inferior constrictor, and push the food downward, prevent regurgitation of food, and peristaltic movement of the esophagus helps in relaxation of lower esophageal sphincter, entry of bolus into the food bolus into the stomach. And what is the clinical aspect of deglutition? Dysphagia means difficulty in swallowing, causes carcinoma of the esophagus and cardiospasm, that is cardiac achalasia. Cardiac end of stomach, there is spasm near the cardiac end of stomach. Achalasia cardia, it is failure of lower esophageal sphincter due to congenital absence of the ganglion cells in the myenteric plexus of esophageal valve, and it causes accumulation of food in the esophagus. Pharyngeal spaces, there are three pharyngeal spaces located around the constrictor of the pharynx. One is retropharyngeal space and two lateral pharyngeal or parapharyngeal space. Abscess occurs in this space, that's why it is important. Okay, retropharyngeal space and parapharyngeal space. So all these are important. So from here you prepare short notes. Okay, important for your viva in head, neck, viscera, pyriform fossa, Killian's dehiscence, nerve supply of pharynx, all, and the constrictor muscles. All this comes in your short note. Okay.